Good evening, everybody. Hello. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye, and this is very exciting for me. We've been to Chicago now last week for the Travel and Adventure Show, and then we come to New York to do the New York Times Travel Show. So the idea with this presentation is to talk African wildlife photography. We're going to break it down step by step, kind of the company that I've created around wildlife photography, what we do, what wildlife photography is, some tips and things in between. Before we go, by show of hands for me quickly, who has been to Africa to photograph wildlife? More than I expected. That's awesome. Okay, and the rest of you, why not?
October.
To?
October.
October. Okay, who's planning to go to Africa soon? Hands up. More. Come on, Bob. All right. The idea with tonight, guys, is I'm going to discuss Wild Eye, the company that I work for, that we created about 7 years ago, and it's not going to be a this is how you have to photograph wildlife, because for photography, I'm going to share kind of my ethos and the approach to photography. I've given you all the extra information on the shots. What I want to try and do is create a bit of a broader scope. Q&A open. Sorry, my Madonna mic's falling off here. Q&A will be open throughout, so if you see anything, if I say anything that you have a question on, pop a hand up, let's discuss. Nice open forum, small group, so we can do that. The idea is to start a little bit just on Wild Eye. We're based in South Africa. And then just discuss photography, wildlife photography in general, broad strokes. Kind of, do you have to worry about the shutter speed and the ISO and the aperture? Because, and we'll mention this again, nobody's ever, I think a lot of people overthink these things. They overthink their wildlife photography. We'll get there. See some people looking at me like, what is he talking about? Nobody walks up to a picture on a wall, beautiful lion on the wall. You walk up, you look at this picture, and you say, that is the best shutter speed I've ever seen. Doesn't work that way. A lot of what we do is based on content, what you've got in the frame. If I show you that image, can you feel what I felt when I was out there? So I've got a lot of examples in here for you, and we'll break them down, what I try to do, the shutter speeds. If you see any of my settings, you have a question, pop the hand up and we'll go from there. All right, any questions to start? Anybody have any expectations?
I'm hoping to know what kind of lenses to equip myself with.
All right, cool. I'm going to do this quickly. I always do this on my courses, and sometimes it's a fist fight. Show of hands, how many people shoot Canon? Okay, how many shoot Nikon? Okay, if you guys can then split up, if all the Canon users can it becomes this thing, yeah? So you'll see the EXIF information I have underneath my images. I've given you shutter speed, aperture, ISO, and focal length. I didn't tell you what camera it was with. You can ask if you have a specific question. I kind of remember most of them, but to me it's not the gear I use. What I've done, and I've been lucky enough, I historically shoot Nikon. I bought my first Nikon because at the time it was the cheapest one in the store, way back. So I bought the Nikon, and then you grow into the system. You buy lenses, you buy flashes, and you get all these things. It's difficult then to make a change. We'll discuss Wild Eye now in a sec, but when I started then hosting safaris and private guided trips and stuff, I can't shoot Nikon if my 4 guests are shooting Canon. To me, there's a disconnect from the service I can provide. So at the office, we have a rental stock library of Canon equipment and Nikon equipment. So I'll, before a trip, like if I host a great migration trip, I'll go and look at the breakdown. If it's more or less 50-50, I will take some Nikon and some Canon because I need to be able to speak both languages. But the focal length question is a very, very interesting one. Which lens to use? So we'll discuss those. Anybody else? Yes?
I'm currently going to Svalbard, Norway in June for polar bear show.
Oh.
How will this translate?
I've actually got a polar bear picture in my African presentation, so very well. Svalbard I host once a year, fantastic trip. You're going to love it. Have you been up before?
No.
Svalbard. Anybody know what Svalbard is? Yes. Ooh, it's amazing. So what it is, for those of you that do not know, is if you look at mainland Norway and you fly 3 hours north, there's a little town called Longyearbyen, and it's an archipelago of islands, and you see polar bears there, and well, it is phenomenal. If you have any questions, give me a shout afterwards. Beautiful, beautiful. I think I'm there maybe 2 weeks before you then.
Going about, I think, June 12th.
Yeah, good timing. Very good timing. All right, so just a bit of kind of just get us into this whole thing. Wild Eye's a company I started about 7 years ago. I've got 2 partners in the business, and at the time, the reason we started this thing was we wanted to take the stereotypes out of the photographic safari industry, specifically back in Africa. There's, there's still some people out there and some companies out there that have created and applied to the stereotype of you have to have a lens like this to go on a photo safari. You have to wear a short brown pants that comes up to here to go on a photo safari, and you're going to be drinking beer with the guys all night on a photo safari. So that's a stereotype that there was. It still is to a certain degree, but we set out to try and change that, to take the intimidation away. I kid you not, I have people who come on safaris with us, and they just shoot this. It's possible. Like if I go and Adele, my wife, comes with, she shoots only on this. Yeah? It's great pictures and it's immediately shareable. So the idea behind Wild Eye was we're going to make it simple, and we've leveraged very big on the education side of it. So in Johannesburg, we've got two offices in South Africa, one in Kenya, and we've got courses, digital photography, Lightroom and Photoshop, and then a wildlife photography course. The idea was to make it simple again, to make it fun again. It's not the serious stuff all the time. It has to be fun. So we've been going for a while, and as time grew on, well, in our second year, we, after visiting the Great Migration in Masai Mara for the first time, the potential blew us away, and now we have a camp in the Masai Mara as well. It happened very quickly. It is phenomenal. So the guys in Nairobi run that side of it for us. They run the safari business. We plug in the photography side of it. All right. For those of you that are interested, I've got contact details at the end. If anybody wants this presentation, email me at the end. I'll send you PDFs and whatever. So there's not much note taking, but we can do that. All right. So I put this more just here for myself. So if we talk about a photographic safari, there's a couple of reasons why you go. Who has seen a leopard in the wild? Please, hand up. Okay. Let's try that. No, cancel, lose the leopard. Who has seen a polar bear in the wild? Please, hand up. Nice. Okay. What did you feel when you saw your first polar bear? It is mind-blowing. Right, so if you go on your first safari and you see a lion or a leopard or a thing in the wild, elephant in the wild, you are not worrying about the depth of field and the circle of confusion and what my shutter speed. It's like, oh my God, just get the shot. So you're shooting for proof. You're taking an image. You're not making it. Make sense? Yeah? So initially, my dad keeps on saying he's still in the idea of shooting proof shots. He shoots too many of them, but he's shooting proof shots. He just wants to go home and say, look at what I saw. It's great for Facebook. Yeah? So for me, the progression as a wildlife photographer comes in when you start making images. You've taken the shot, you've done what you have to do, and then you sit back and say, right, how can I as a photographer, as an artist, show people what I am feeling? Okay. The reality as well, though, is you can only shoot what you see. If you don't see a leopard climbing up and down a tree, hey, it's one of those things. All right. Does anybody, this is going to sting, I know. Does anybody follow my work online? Instagram? Please, Dennis, put your hand up. Someone. There's a few. Yes. Okay. So I've gravitated more towards the creative side of it. I find taking an image, it gets boring. You can only take so many. Yeah? Then to start playing around. So when I get to a section here around Lake Nakuru, which is a place in Kenya, I've got some of the creative stuff in. It's just idea, guys. If you can take one thing from today, I'm more than happy. If it's inspiration, a good laugh, whatever, we'll see how that goes. All right. Touched on this a bit. Gear is good, vision is better. Anybody follow David? Worth a follow. Yeah. Phenomenal writer on and around photography. So if I send this to you, follow him on his blog. What's it called? Pixelated Image. Very, very good photographic writer. That's one of his sayings that kind of when he started making big headlines, that was his thing. And I cannot emphasize that enough for wildlife photography. I've had a couple of meetings today with people who are either coming on a trip or who want to go on a trip. And the first thing they say when they sit down is what? What gear should I take? Yeah? Which is fine because you have to pack and you've got to do all these things. But I can't wait for the day when I sit down with someone and you say to me, I want to go to Kenya, I want to create these types of images. Once you know what type of image you want to create, the type of gear you're going to use becomes so much easier. Yeah? Let me just get an idea here. Who shoots lenses more than 300 mils in size? Okay, 400? 500, 6. Who's never shot a lens more than 200? Okay. Long lens technique and stuff. So when we talk about that later on. So, I mean, this is just, don't get stuck on your gear. I say to a lot of the people out in the field, don't always think. I say to those people, if you shoot a 1DX1, the first version, 1DX, yeah, and you now purchase a 1DX2, what's the price difference here between those two? Ballpark? 2 grand, 3 grand maybe? Do you think your images are going to be 2 grand, 3 grand better suddenly? You are still the person who drives that thing. All right. So, look, I like my gear, make no mistake, but don't get stuck on this. All righty. So, hello. Now, I did a similar type of presentation in Chicago, but it was more around the travel aspect of it. Where should I go on a safari? But I'm going to repeat this just so we're all on the same page here, because I pulled this definition and adjusted it slightly from offline. When people hear I'm in the safari business, what is the first thing they say? How dare you shoot the animals? There's still this perception safari means hunting. Okay, it doesn't. An expedition to observe or photograph animal in the natural habitat. We don't shoot animals apart from with a camera. But it's a massive industry, but there's a big disconnect between what I do and what they do. All right, just we're on the same page. So, some images, this is just to kind of set the scene for us. Yeah? This is a safari from my point of view. Wide open spaces, spending time out in the field. That's Kenya. Getting up close. In their natural habitat. Buffalo, sitting there waiting for them to come to you. It's the moments that count. Low angles in the Chobe. Phenomenal. That elephant from Phil's head down here was maybe where you're sitting in the third row. That's how close these elephants are. Wide angle shots, so you get a bit of depth in there. Phenomenal experience. Yeah. Don't look at the tracker. He looks scared for his life. Okay? But I think it was just coughing or sneezing. But those are the kind of things, those moments are special. Out in the wild, wild animals who do not interact with us, that's what we're hoping to photograph on safari. Kenya, beautiful big male lion. They walk to you and pass you. You don't have to rush after them. Same page. Singita, anybody know the name? Phenomenal lodge. Phenomenal, phenomenal lodge. That's part of a safari experience. In the evenings around the fire with the Masai in the Kenya, for example, photographing these guys. It's not just about the photography, and I say this to every single client that comes out. It needs to be about the experience of being out there. Then you need to hopefully, if you're traveling, learn something new or find inspiration, and then leave with great images. Then you're on the right track. Early morning. There's nothing that beats being out there on your own with a wild animal. It is a thing of beauty. Rhino, I'm going to ask you guys as well. I've seen on your televisions here, there's a lot of mention of elephants, how endangered they are that are being shot out in this. You know the ones. How many of you, by show of hands, know about the rhino poaching issue? More than last year. This is great. Last year, I was at a social media company on close to the Javits. About 200 people. I asked that same question. 2 people put their hand up. Okay. The rhinos are taking a hammering. Big, big, big hammering. Glad to know people are aware of it. Okay, again, just some more. This is a safari as far as we're concerned. Yeah? Hello? Dennis, you remember that? Yeah? Out on foot. Special times. Being able to go on foot in those kind of areas. Hello? Mana Pools. Who's been to Mana Pools before? In Zimbabwe. It's one of the few places you can actually go on foot. You have an armed guide with you, but to experience stuff like this. You take that image. This lady is not going to forget that image regardless of what the quality's like. It's that experience of it. It's phenomenal. That's in Wangi. Dry times. If you plan your trip to the certain areas correctly, you sit on your deck and they come to you. Tripod, slow, shutter speeds. That's the kind of stuff you can think of here. Right. But where should I go? And that's what we're going to try and discuss now. Isn't it all the same? If I go to the Masai Mara or Londolozi or wherever it is, the most important thing is to manage your expectations when you go on a safari. Okay, and it's not just I'm going to Londolozi or to Madikwe or to Wangi. For example, you're not going to see that in Africa. You're going to see it in June, right? So something like this. If you want to see rhino and you go to the Zambezi Valley, which is the Zambezi River with Zimbabwe and Zambia, you're not going to see these. They don't exist there. They haven't existed there since 1980. Poached to extinction in the area. They're regionally extinct. So if you want to photograph rhino, you need to do your homework or say to someone like myself, I want to photograph rhino, where can I go? Yeah? The Great Migration, you're not going to see this in South Africa or Botswana or Wangi, anywhere. There are two places, and we're going to discuss this in a little bit, where you will see that spectacle. Know where you want to go. Okay, many people, it's about the big five before we start getting into the photography side of it. We know what the big five is, yes. Okay, nobody's going to say hippo or giraffe, confirm. Who is going to, don't put your hand up. Okay, everybody say hippo, hippo, no. Okay, big five. Big five. Okay, they are still some of the most sought after photographic subjects out there with good reason. They are phenomenal and they are awesome. The reason they're called the big five, hippo is bigger than some of them, yeah, so is a giraffe. Those are originally the 5 most dangerous animals that they used to hunt on foot. That's where big five comes from, yeah? So most places where you would go on safari, you would find some of them, but a lot of places you won't find all of them. So if your photographic goal is to photograph the big five, you need to do your homework and make sure. Which one do you think is the most difficult to find? Second? Yeah? Leopard? Lion? Buffalo? Rhino's tough in some areas. For example, Madikwe Game Reserve. I've sat at a waterhole, I've seen 26 white rhinos in one sighting. There it's easy, but you're not going to see a leopard. Londolozi, Sabi Sands, Singita, yeah. There you've got a very good chance of seeing all of these things. Okay, so they are nice, but there's so much more. Okay, where in Africa should I go to photograph African wildlife? So what I've done is I've broken this down into countries. I've pulled them down from everything basically sub-Sahara. South Africa, I'm doing a little bit of Zimbabwe, and then Kenya. The reason is I feel that if I look at South Africa, the type of photography that it offers, I'm going to fight with this mic all night, but it's fine. I can do this, don't worry. So South Africa, the type of photography you can do there, considering spotlights, night photography, things like that, the type of subject you can photograph, because you can go off-road. We're going to run through a whole bunch of examples. So what I've done, I've given you the EXIF information underneath each image. Have a look at it. If you have questions on it, stick a hand up, we can discuss. I will give you as much value as I can around each image. What the idea was, what I was trying to do. Sometimes it's just a nice image that kind of is nice. But we'll discuss through, and you'll see what's possible out there. Happy? Let's do it. So, did I click that twice? I want to keep this up. Hang on. So I'm going to keep this one up just for a moment. For those of you that are planning your first safari or another safari, one thing to be cognizant of, from Botswana up to Kenya, most of the operators charge in USD. South African lodges, a lot of them charge in rand, South African rand, which currently is 13.5 to the dollar. Your budget can stretch quite a bit. So either you can stay for longer, you can get a private guide, you can up your level of accommodation, but just keep in mind, South Africa from a safari point of view offers a lot, lots of diversity. So, couple from Londolozi Game Reserve. Settings at the bottom. This was a sighting. We were heading back to a lion kill, if I recall, and we just drove past this. It was just there. Dennis will remember this, yeah? Early morning, it was just there. So, setting-wise, I didn't really pay much attention. Pick up and shoot. Do you guys want to go into things like negative space composition? Should we talk a little bit as we go? We'll just throw it out. Any questions, you fire at will, yeah? So, images like this, silhouettes. Dime a dozen in Africa. East Africa is great for silhouettes. Places like this definitely sets the mood. Londolozi. Just show me who knows about Londolozi. I've got 1, 2, 3. Okay. Everybody knows about the Kruger National Park. Big, big, big national reserve in Africa. You've then got the Greater Kruger, which sits, if the Kruger runs down like this, it's kind of a bubble that sits next to it. You got Londolozi, Mala Mala, and the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. Arguably some of the best lodges in South Africa, Southern Africa, and truly incredible game viewing. Most of this is from here. Right, let's see. Moments like that. When you see a sighting like that, what is the biggest thing you have to worry about? shutter speed. You have to have a fast enough shutter speed. How do you keep your shutter speed up? ISO needs to stay up. Yeah? Depending on the amount of light you have. I'm going to jump around, guys. Any questions? Fire, yeah? So, ISO 1000. Is it enough? Is it not enough? I wanted that fast shutter speed of 1250 because these things move quick. They're not fighting, they're playing. It's a mom and a youngster. All right. 35. This was in a 70 to 200 millimeter. I think it was a Canon 1DX at the time. Lovely, lovely images. If you want to photograph leopards, this is where you go. You cannot fault that place. Yes?
How many frames per second are you using when you're firing when you're taking these shots? How many shots are you taking?
Good question. So on this, how many frames per second? I'm not a big believer in aiming and going and just kind of buffering it out. I shoot short bursts of 3 to 4. I find, and the more you do it, if you start understanding animal behavior, when they're going to jump, when the elephant's going to spray the water, when the lion's going to yawn, your buffers can get shorter. I always use the example, I mean, my dad's a okay-ish photographer, but he rattles. So if I'm going to just rattle off, grrrr, and then choose one in Lightroom afterwards, am I a good photographer? It's debatable. Yeah? So I personally go like short bursts, 3 or 4, trying to at least buffer around those key moments. Yeah? Answer? I had an interesting one. There's a hide place called Zimbabwe in South Africa. It's a hide behind glass, and there's a little bird pond. And this woman set up, I know her well, she was just there by the chance. She put up her lens against the glass, and then where the birds were landing, she set everything up, she pre-focused, then she sat back with a remote control. So this bird landed, she's sitting back, kind of having tea or whatever, and she just holds her finger down. Brrr. So, Phil, a client of mine, we look up at her, and this thing, she just got her thumb down. Grrr. I said, what? No, she will get him taking off. So, she must have shot, I don't know, 40, 50 frames before this bird probably got a fright and left. But that to me is not photography. I don't know. We could debate, but I prefer to do the short burst. Try and buffer around the action. All right. Great Migration asked me that question again. All right. Portraits. Beautiful portraits. How do we affect the depth of field on something like that? Yeah? F4. Wide open aperture gives me a softer background. Large lens and close to the subject. It gives you that creamy, soft background. I believe, anybody follow the Wildlife Photographer of the Year competitions? Yeah? Over the last couple of years, if you go back 3, 4, 5 years, everything was all over the place. There was these artistic things and blurs, and it's just like a pink sky with a stripe across, and it's like seagull in flight or something. Yeah? A lot of it's coming back to just good, solid wildlife photography. Good, solid wildlife photography. Yes? This was handheld. This one was handheld. The majority of the work that I do, and most safaris, we shoot handheld. I have people arriving with these brackets, you know, these gimbal brackets. So we all know what an open game viewer looks like. It's got those bars. So now what happens, if we're all in the game viewer, right? We're driving this way. I bracket myself on here. That's cool. So the guide parks us. The animal's on that side. He thinks he's going to stay there. These things move around. So this thing now walks across. And this guy's fighting with this bracket while that leopard's killing an elephant on that side. Yeah. Well, not quite. But so if anything, bean bags works very well. You get the badger bags, which kind of hung over. But majority of it for me is handheld. If I start going over 30th of a shutter speed, I start being a bit concerned about bean bag or something. But most of this, everything so far has been handheld. Yep. All right.
Another question.
Yes.
Do you find that you ever have to bring the f-stop any lower than 4 for like something like this? Or
Yep. Everybody copy the question. Do you ever take the f-stop lower than f4, like a 2.8? Absolutely. I don't have it in here, but for example, if I have a leopard, and this can happen where you are from me on the vehicle, and I open 2.8 on a 70 to 200 or a 300, I focus on your eyes, the nose will be softened out of focus. Or I can focus on the nose and blur out to the back. So I would never ever start there. I'm always, if you follow my work, which some of you, thank you, do, I would never start off with creativity. I would always bank the shot first. Open up, shoot the 5.6, the 6.3, the 7.1. Bank the shot so you've got it, and then down it and play from there. Yep. Sorry, I didn't even see you there. How you doing? Good stuff.
Same question, but what about when you have like tricky light conditions, you know, as the sun's going down and your target is in a more shadowy
Sure.
area?
So same question. What about tricky light conditions when your subject's in a shaded or a dappled light area? Yeah? Okay, I need you to be honest with me here. How many of you get nervous if you take your ISO over 1600? Please lift your hands up. Yeah? So. Okay. I'm comfortable, quite honestly, shooting up to 6.4 because a lot of the stuff out there that you see, especially with the cats, happen when the light drops. And you'll see some examples coming up now. I had a woman on safari once, and this question came up. On the last day of a safari, I see she's going through Lightroom, and then she's marking and then delete. She deleted every single image off of Big Cats and Tuskers. We're not here. Big Cats and Tuskers trip. So we did the Masai Mara, Lake Nakuru, Lake Naivasha, and Ambeli. She deleted every single image above 1,000 ISO, regardless. What? I mean, the noise reduction is great, and some of the cameras can take it. I'm personally not too concerned about it. If it's usable for me and I can clean it up, I would rather have a grainy image of great content versus great content and it's just bland. I'm very happy to shoot up there. Very happy. This, for example, is 2000. Yeah? This was, the light broke here for a moment. That's why it went up to 800. But I mean, I think, Dennis, this was with you. Just before that light popped, it was very, very dark and overcast. But I'm happy to shoot at 2000. The cameras these days can take it.
Yeah, when you're in a low light situation, you worry about the, I guess, do you crank up the ISO first, or would you start using flash?
For a lot of the situations, depending on what it is, unless you've got a better beamer, those flash projectors, this could have reached, because this youngster was coming, that was here. That could have worked. If you're comfortable balancing flash with your exposure, then I would look at it. Maybe a bit of full flash, but a lot of the time it won't reach. So let me put it to you this way. If you were with me on the vehicle, I would help you to do the flash, but I won't. To me, it's too much to do. I want to just bang, I would just push the ISO up. Yeah, but flash is an option. Yeah?
Do you usually push ISO up before dropping the f-stop, or?
Do I push ISO up before the f-stop? It depends on what I want to do with the image. If it's about the subject and I want to blur that background out, then yes, I would push the ISO and keep my F. The moment you start getting to some of the images coming up after this, then I have to drop it down. It just gets too dark.
I just wondered, how does the flash affect the subjects when you take them?
Very good question.
It's going to bounce off their eyes, and does it scare them?
It's a very good question, and in the wildlife photography circles, there's a lot of, I wouldn't even call it debate. I'm going to call it bitchiness online about it. How dare you? You can't. Why did you? You're going to kill the animal. Nocturnal animals, if you could look at an animal's eye, chop it in half. Think tennis ball. Yeah? Nocturnal animals have a reflective layer of cells called a tapetum lucidum at the back, and that bounces light. It helps them to see better in the evening. So for nocturnal animals, to flash them or to use a spotlight coming up next, no problem. As long as I don't keep it on you, then that's a problem. For diurnal animals that live in the day, for example, elephants, I wouldn't flash an elephant in the evening more than once or twice. Because if I flash you once or twice, you also want to throw my car over. You know what I mean? So you need to understand which animals it's okay with. Then it's cool. Like owls, for example. You look at their eyes, it's perfect. That you get, some of them shine red, some of them shine yellow, orange, whatever. Nocturnal animals, you're good, but don't overdo it. Yeah. Nah. Most of the time, there's nothing. You don't see any change in behavior. For example, where you will see a change is something, do we know what an impala is? Like a little deer thing. Yeah? They, if you put the spotlight on them in the evening, they get a bit edgy because they don't know what the hell's going on and they can't see anything. Same with a giraffe. Giraffe, you can do permanent damage because their eyesight's very big and they don't have that reflective layer of cells. But most of the time, it's just common sense. Nocturnal, yes, but short. Diurnal, no. Yep. Right. Photographing in the rain. Thing of beauty. It is phenomenal. Too many people, this was in a wildlife photography seminar we host once, twice a year. at Sabi Sabi. We had our 4 vehicles, 3 people per vehicle, and each one of my guys on each, and it starts raining, but like proper rain. And what is the first thing people do? They're packing cameras away. Look, what are you doing? It's a tool. Put a piece of plastic over, put your poncho over, and keep shooting. So I don't know if you guys can see the raindrops. Yeah? At 1/250th of a second, soft rain you pick up. If you go from like 500 and up, it's dots. Then you freeze the rain. But the little bit of stripes is enough for me to get the feeling of rain. Lovely. Never ever pack your camera away when it's raining. So much magic out there. Yeah.
From a creative or artistic point of view, why'd you go with streaks as opposed to dots?
I've got the dots as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question is, why did I go with the streaks and not the dots? So I do shoot both. I shoot in aperture mode 95% of the time. So I'll just dial that up and down. In this case, the streaks to me felt like rain. And when I froze it, there wasn't enough of them to make it, it almost looked like a lot of dust spots. So yeah, just the streaks just felt better to me. Yeah. Okay. Seriously upset lion. Okay. So, what is the interesting thing? The reason I put this in, look at the ISO on that. Huge. Yeah? If you look at an image and you see ISO 4000, you need to think something is going to happen. There's action that you want to freeze. Okay, this was an overcast morning, and this pride of lions was all at each other. It was absolute chaos. There were 2 males, there were 6 females, and about 12 youngsters, and everybody fought with everybody. Literally. We thought cubs were going to die that morning. Tough one. So, because it was overcast and cloudy, I knew things will happen quick. They'll jump at each other, they'll bite and tear, and I wanted to keep above 1,000 always. So I had to dial up to 4,000. I could either get these shots at 4,000 or not at all. There's your call on the ISO. Yeah? So, this guy, for those of you that follow my work, thank you again. No, I'm joking. If you go and look at this male, his tooth is literally out. It was torn out when he, I think he killed a giraffe. Him and his brother got kicked, and it is still hanging out. It's still alive, it's still attached, but he's quite a character. The first time you think, oh my God, I got to photograph this animal, it's amazing. When you look at me like, no. It's actually quite ugly. But the reason with this high ISO is purely because they would walk slowly and then suddenly there's just lions everywhere. Bah! So I used, because I'm shooting aperture, I kept it at 6.3. I was on 300 mil fixed, but I wanted to keep that shutter speed up. Consideration. Yes, sir. I don't. This was, I think this was a Nikon D810. So I've got the fast ISO at the back. Phenomenal. I love that. So I can change my aperture in front, my ISO in the back. It's phenomenal. The auto ISO, not a lot of birding photographers go for that. But I mean, maybe a bit old school, but I like to control it. Yeah? All right. Okay. There comes a time, so now, ISO 80, when the light drops and you cannot shoot sharp images anymore, even if you've pumped your ISO up to 4,000 and you've dropped to 2.8, it's just not coming out sharp because it gives you 1/5 shutter speed. Yeah? Play around. I love this kind of stuff. Why? Because if there's a lion sitting there and we all take a picture of the lion, they're going to be very close together. Nobody can mimic this, ever. That's my shot. That's what's nice. So slow shutter, pan along, click and pull, great stuff. It doesn't have to be sharp. Can you all see what it is? It's an elephant. No, see, I've got people who, they try this, and you can see the disappointment on their face. It's like, and you look at it, it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, but the face isn't sharp. It doesn't have to be. You're photographing a feeling here. It's a feeling of a predator moving through the bush. Love this kind of stuff. On the blog and on our YouTube channel, I've done quite a bit of blogs and stuff on this, the slow shutter stuff. Love this thing. Love, love, love. So what happened here, I just had this in because this is the same boy that was walking there. The game drive vehicle, yeah? 3x3x3. I was sitting back corner so I can see what the clients are doing in front. This thing literally walked from where Bob is. It was going to walk underneath. And it was just pan along and try for the best. That came out. I dig it. It's pretty cool. Nobody's going to make one like it.
So do you use it fully manual, or do you have control over
always aperture mode, and then I control my aperture in front and ISO at the back. So because I'm using ISO, I'm literally changing shutter speed. So for me, it's aperture and shutter speed, but it's not. Make sense? So I mean, is anything sharp? Okay, one whisker maybe, but other than that, you can see what it is. It's something different. I think it's cool. Yeah? Don't stop shooting when it's dark. Play around. We'll get to more on Lake Nakuru as well. So now you start looking, as the sun drops, you've got ambient light in the back, which is great. And then the nice thing about the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which is your Londolozis, Mala, Singitas, Kirk, there's lots, yeah? We have 2 or 3 vehicles, and the guys radio and say, right, can you put a soft side light from that side? And then you work, and you can start lighting up your subjects. It becomes very interesting. Very interesting. You'll see some stuff now as well, but something like this, it's a great image. It's a great mood. You can feel it's evening. It's kind of get that ominous blue sky, the predators waking, or whatever. You can make it up. But 80. So here, this was beanbag, because 1/80.
What is he on top of it? I mean, it looks almost like it's from a very low perspective.
Yeah. The angles, we'll talk angles as we go. This was a little termite mound thing that it was up. And then we were initially parked over here, but there was a dip. So we put our vehicle into a little dip down to be able to get that angle up. Eye level to animals, phenomenal. So, moving into the spotlight area now. Right. Again, second vehicle. Dennis, you remember this was a phenomenal evening. They had just killed a buffalo, what, hour before? And it took them a while to do it. Different story. Soft side lighting from the side. Set it up and shoot. This I go manual for. When it comes to this kind of lighting, manual works better for me. So I don't know if you guys want to write this down. If you're doing shutter speed work, what I'll go 2000 ISO, f2.8 or as low as I can go, and 1/250 shutter speed. Take a picture, look. Literally just get an idea. But those kind of settings is a very good baseline to start from. And then if it's too dark, what do? Your shutter speed, your aperture is already open. ISO up 1, do it again. If it's too bright, take the ISO, take the aperture and close it down a bit. But the 250, f2.8, and 2000-ish is a good starting point, and then play from there. Phenomenal. The Sabi Sands is, I would say, the best place in the world to get shots like this. Because the guys know what they're doing. You can stay out until midnight if you really want to, and you can work together. Okay, same thing. Leopard up a tree. Different vehicle giving you side light. Light illuminates, shadows define. That's what's happening here. Yeah? Check the ISO again. 2.5. Has to be, little light. Things like that. Again, this is not directly, we had 2 vehicles parked next to each other. This vehicle was lighting across so we could shoot from this side. And then we took turns. Phenomenal sighting. Giraffe died in a water hole. That's not phenomenal. That's sad. But then 2 male lions found it. They had to go through the water and in. We sat there until about 10:30, 11 at night. Insane sighting. Phenomenal photography. And I would not, even in a place like your Madikwe, Timbavati, Klaseri, if those mean anything to you guys, you won't be able to get it to this level. The Sabi Sands, for these kind of images, needs to be on your hit list. It's beautiful. Okay, that's the 2 males again from the one that was just on the previous shot. So this was directional. So I was looking at the scene with here from one of the vehicles and another vehicle from the side shooting across. So we took turns to give the angle. The story here is golden. The one brother doesn't want the other brother to come and feed with him. And it works. So in post-processing, if we get time to discuss that, lift the one a little bit. The other one was further back, so he was softer. So our eyes are drawn to what? 3 things. Bright areas, sharp areas, saturated areas. So I'm drawn to that one, but I can see the story's completed. Makes sense. Sabi Sands. It is phenomenal. Different sighting, similar kind of vibe. Have a nice look. You see what's happening there? Yeah? That's a dead buffalo. So you leave your viewer of the image, the reader of your image, to kind of break it down and see what's happening. A lot of the people on the trip, because this was on a seminar as well, is they would process the image. We have like an image crit thing. A lot of them cropped it there. It's nice, but I mean, a cup of tea is nice. It's like whatever. With the whole thing, the story comes in. Then it becomes real. And I've even had people who, on the same trip, they would crop it out at the buffalo's nose because the grass is distracting. No, it's not. You shoot what you see. It was a part of the scene. There it is. All right, South Africa. For cats, low light shooting, you have to go there. Zimbabwe. The reason I'm putting Zimbabwe in here is mostly because of this, monopools. I asked this in Chicago as well. Who would be scared to go to Zimbabwe right now with me because of what Mugabe is doing? No? Nice. So we can go. All right. The safety factor is not an issue. You do not go close to Bob's house. You pass by airport to airport. So no worries there. Mana Pools. It is a phenomenal destination with probably one of the best orange light, golden dusty lights you can imagine. And you can go on foot here. So the elephants in Mana Pools have done a specific thing now for many, many years, and it's the only place that they regularly do it, is they stand on their back legs, literally, they stand up, and they grab some of the seed pods and come down. You can be as close from me to that TV screen from a 6-ton elephant photograph these things. It is phenomenal. Right, but the reason I've just included this here, just to give you an idea of different environments. So the problem that a lot of wildlife photographers do is we buy a camera and we get the kit. You come here, you buy a camera, yeah? You buy a 70-300 kit lens. Like, yes, I've got a 300mm. And then you zoom in tight all the time, tight, tight, tight. Then you realize I can get a 100-400, and you go even tighter. Then you rent a 500 to 600, and at the end of a year, your portfolio is just face shots of all animals. There's no context. So places like this, you have to show environment. Pull back. Don't only use your big guns. Take a day out. See, you do these things. 24-70, brilliant lens. Use that and create the context around it. Hello? So these ellies literally stand up on their back legs. Pull from. If you want to go to Mana Pools, go there between August and October. That's when they peak on this behavior. Dry, they want to get the seed pods. Phenomenal. This guy's got a collar. I normally don't like photographing animals with collars. His name is Boswell. So one of the guys that stand up. But I mean, it is what it is. Now the light in this place, on the floodplains, the soft dust, very fine dust kicks up early mornings and late afternoon light. This is mostly the point of this, is it doesn't matter what the subject is. A lot of the time, like this beam of light was there. We sat there for about an hour and a half, hoping this thing wouldn't go away and hoping something would walk into it. I was hoping for an elephant, didn't happen, waterbuck came along. So often we are so caught up on the subject. It's a lion, it's a leopard. I get that. But the scene, the stage that these things play on is so beautiful. Often look for a scene. If there's an elephant or something that's going to walk into it, wait. Patience. Light. It's phenomenal. Early mornings, again. On foot, close by. I mean, he couldn't have been further than what that Mac is just behind us there. Beautiful. Phenomenal scene. You're all happy with how to get the starburst effect. Yeah? When you take your aperture from 2.8 to 22, the way the blades close up, you get that starburst. If you place the starburst correctly, interesting type of shots. Mana Pools. For those of you that are keen on foot experiences and wide-angle photography, this is one of the places to look at. All right, Kenya. There's a lot to this place. Diversity. Okay. Show of hands. Who's been to Kenya? Couple here. All right. Great Migration, Mara River, Kilimanjaro. Now, I know Kilimanjaro is actually in Tanzania, but Amboseli has a better view. So that's why they get it. We'll talk about that. So I've taken 3 areas in Kenya, Amboseli, Lake Nakuru, and then the Masai Mara, to look at photographically. Okay. Amboseli, definitely is one of my favorite photographic places in Africa because it's predictable. Once you can predict movement, you can get some good shots. We're going to be there in a couple of weeks. You're going to love it. So, early mornings. What happens in Amboseli, you've got, so let's say, for example, this whole thing is a map. The orange part's a map of Amboseli, right? The mountain, Kilimanjaro, sits just, it's actually south, but we use it for here now. So the mountain sits here, and there's a forest at the base of the mountain, and you've got marshes inside the park. The elephants kind of overnight in those forests, and every morning they will walk from the forests with the mountain behind them towards the marshes to go and drink. That's predictable, so you can start setting up shots. This is just a random one we got coming out of the lodge one morning, which is not bad. Yeah? We're going to get back to those. Lake Ambeli. If you're looking to create, now I know it's a catchphrase, but a fine art, wildlife type of image, Lake Ambeli is where you need to go. So what it is, the top third of the park is a dried up lake bed. It looks like the surface of the moon. Cracked soil, earth. It is hot as hell. I mean, I'm from Africa, I can do heat. It's hot out, you'll see. It's hot out there. But you go out there, and like in the back here, those are elephants. The heat kicked up creates these mirages, like you'll lay flat down, you don't know what it is, and they kind of appear out of nowhere. The photographic potential of this place is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if you can see nicely up top there, you got that little dust devil thing happening. It's iconic Ambeli. With the heat and the downdrafts coming off the mountain, they kick up everywhere. Very interesting. And it makes your images, again, be unique. Nobody can have one with exactly that zebra pattern and my dust devil. Okay. So there's Kilimanjaro. You got these forests at the base. Then the marshes kind of sit over here. And then this is the lake bed, the edge of it. Iconic Africa. I mean, that's the highest peak in Africa and the highest animal. Let me think of that, but there it is. We got out here, so you can drive. On the lake bed, you can drive anywhere. There's no roads. You can just drive anywhere. So we would drive past, this guy was just running. Get out of the car, hunch down, take the shot, get back in, drive past him again. 7,200 mil. So you still wanted to get a bit of the context in. But places like that, you can create images, not just take them. Yes?
Predators are in that lake bed where giraffes.
Very good question. Are there any predators in the lake bed? I've been waiting for 7 years now of going there like, I don't know, 10, 20 times a year to see a big male lion walk through that lake bed. I've seen one picture ever. So they would cross there. The problem with predators are they're not by definition nocturnal. They're more governed by temperature. The heat out there, not would kill them, but they would want to hide away from it. So you'll generally find them on the outskirts. But I will see a predator in there one day. Yes. I'll send you a picture. Okay, so something like that. Again, those are elephants in the background here. Flat down, laying flat down on the floor, taking a picture, creating black and white. That as a print is phenomenal. It's nature's art. You don't have to go and Photoshop things in and out. Do a bit of processing on it, desaturate, add a soft tint. Beautiful. Look at the settings here. What does this tell you? 1/8,000 of a shutter speed. Super bright. Because you only have, there's African heat blazing down. It's white kind of surface and it kicks the light up. Super bright. I could have dropped my ISO to 200 or 100, but I'm lazy. One of those things. Shot still worked. So it was actually a wedding photographer who was with me on this trip. She was a wedding photographer by trade. And she did this. She didn't like it because there's heat haze. It's great. It's different. It's phenomenal. Yeah? You can only shoot what you see. And that was a part of it. Okay. This is an unusual scene for Ambeli. But this is another example of we waited. We had the landscape. These flamingos were up and down, up and down, up and down. We wanted elephants or something to walk in front. This was just out. We sat there for an hour and a half waiting. And eventually, these zebbies came past. Boom. And it just makes something different. Patience in the field. Yeah? Hello? Okay, lake bed again. This whole area looks like this. It's just, there's nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So we stopped. We were having, I think it was coffee or something in the morning. We were there early, 9 o'clock. And this guy came past. Can you give me describe that elephant in one word? Say again? Yeah? What else? Kind of funny. He's kind of gawky. He's agitated, that thing. Yeah? An elephant's got more body language than all of us in this room put together. You can use their tail as a barometer. If it's hanging down, side to side, flinging, it's chill. The higher up it comes, the more aware you have to be. Because they will come and bite you. No, they won't bite you. They'll throw your car over. So this guy did a wide berth around us, and we got all kinds of shot. We shot him with a 1635 at one stage. Right up close. Very, very nice. Yeah, no, so this is 24. He was maybe at the back there somewhere. But this wouldn't have worked in any other natural environment because there's no distracting elements here. It's at negative space, beautiful clouds which create the depth going in. Easy.
Did you shoot that one in black and white, or did you?
Did I shoot that in black? No. Shoot in raw and then just convert afterwards. Silver effects, I still like. Nick Silver effects, yeah, lovely. Very, very cool program. Again, this is on the lake bed, laying flat down, and these elephants walk. They've got these elephant pathways. So you can set up your shots. We drive past them, you go around and wait, and these things either walk straight towards you or they just bypass you. I've had many people underneath the vehicle, and you shoot kind of up as they come past you. It is phenomenal. So again, it wasn't as hot this morning. Zebras in the background, just to give you an idea of the space. Phenomenal thing. Again, look at the ISO, is 100 and 6,400. The reason I chose 5.6 here, I wanted a little bit of depth. You understand depth of field and how that works? A little bit of depth to get some of the eddies in, but I wanted to still emphasize the background out of focus. So 6.4, hey, it is what it is. This again, this is close up. Walking I think this is from underneath the car as well. Just shooting and then coming past. They chill. They're very relaxed, these things. Phenomenal photography. Playing with depth of field. If you want to see elephants, you can't do better than go to Ambeli. They've got the largest herds of free roaming elephants in the world. There's no fences around these places. They come and go. Yep. Depth of field. Focus on the front one, two playing at the back, working a sighting. Everybody comfortable how to get shots like that? It's pretty easy.
Just out of curiosity, why didn't you reverse in other words, have the one in the forefront blurred out?
Yep. So I did shoot it the other way around as well, where these guys were in and he was soft. I found it distracting. The reason, so if you look at the content in the frame, these are two young ones kind of play fighting. So I've got them on their own and everything. But if you have them in focus and there's this thing that cuts across them that's out of focus, the story didn't work for me. So here I can see this is an elephant and he, or it's a she actually, is a part of something else. But I did shoot both. Always try and, bounce around.
Well, it kind of tells a story. It's almost like the agitated grandparent who's like,
Oh.
come on, kids.
Yeah.
Kids are playing in the back.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to
Sure, I like that. You can stay. So, iconic. People go to Ambeli, they want to get this shot. It's the mountain in the background and a big tusker walking past. 70 mil. I wish here I had a wider lens. This was 7200. Because I was shooting it here. He was walking past us. I couldn't shoot it that way. It wasn't big enough. And there was a vehicle just on that side. So it's one of those things like, so close. But you get the idea. Those are the kind of shots. And something like that, that's Africa. Yeah. So what happens here? This is predictable. You come to Ambeli, you're going to see this. They're in these forests in the evening. The marshes are kind of over there somewhere. Every morning they walk past the mountain. Every afternoon they go back. So you start predicting those kind of images, knowing where they go. There's 2 or 3 spots where it's open and they come out. Set up your shot. This is waiting for the scene and let them walk through. They literally almost ran into my car. So these two guys were fighting. I'll show you now in the next frame. But then in the end, they literally came around us and ran from where you are sitting past our vehicle. The guy in my vehicle, it was a private couple that I had on safari. The guy's a doctor, very conservative. He said words I think he's never said in his life before. They just missed us. So that was them having a good go. Oh, stop, go back. Hey, man. So running and fighting. This. Okay. Happened out of nowhere. Stood watching these two males. The one dusted, the other one dusted. What would I have liked to change about this? I was on a 400mm fixed lens. I would have liked to be out a bit. So prime lenses, wonderful to shoot, does limit you once in a while. So I've got a lot of these scenes where they're literally facing side to side. This one's butt chopped off. So I would have loved to be on a 300 here. It is what it is. Good fun. And then Ambeli as well. Anywhere in Africa, I mean, there's not much stars out here by you guys, But anyway, in Africa, the stars in that place are just phenomenal. Ambeli, because it's at the base of the mountain, there's no light pollution. We're talking zero. This is about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30. So the camera picked up some of the light of the sun starting to come up. This guy doesn't speak a word of English. So I was shooting this Milky Way, and the next thing there was an elephant kind of off to the side making noise, and he was guarding us, this guy. We were on their property. And he just walked into my frame. So I flashed the guy with my little headlamp, and that came out. One of those lucky things that just works. Everybody comfortable shooting stars, shooting the night skies. So if you're going on October. So manual, start on 20 seconds, as wide open aperture as you can, and 2.5. Take a shot and see. The biggest thing with shooting stars is you have to be on manual focus and focus the lens on infinity. Otherwise, it looks soft and blurry at the top. If you Google wild eye photograph stars, just like that, you'll find a blog post with all of those details. Yes?
Did that guy stand still for 25 seconds?
No. So good question, yeah? So he literally came past, and all I did, I had a little hand, and I just flashed and released. So the rest of the time, when he was moving through here, there was no light on him, so it just blurred out, ghosted out.
I recently watched this program where they were filming underwater shipwrecks, and that's basically that. They had a wide open shutter, and they literally painted.
It's trippy, hey?
With light.
It's phenomenal. Shooting low light stuff, stars, every safari you go on, you should do it. It is phenomenal.
I'm sorry. I did
Yeah,
have a
no.
question. I know at a certain point when you extend the shutter too much, you start getting that star streak.
Starts turning.
Roughly what?
So the question is, at what point do you start seeing the movement of the stars? There is a very fancy formula, which I'm not going to put my finger on now. I normally go over 30, and I'll never go over 20 over here. So if you use a 600 millimeter lens and you shoot this, you will get movement. But if you stay very wide and you stay under 30 seconds, you won't. Yeah. There is a formula. I've got a link in that blog post that goes to that.
So it's not just the shutter speed, it's the combination of the
Yeah.
length and
Yes.
and the speed.
Yes.
So did you brighten this so much in post-processing?
Yes. It didn't brighten much. The biggest thing if you shoot stars is your white balance. Often it comes out very orange if you shoot an auto. So I just adjusted the white balance a bit, but they're normal processing. On our YouTube channel, I've got a couple of these being processed, so you can run through those as well. But yeah, not brighten as such.
It's just because I shot the Milky Way on the West Coast.
Yes.
My ISO was all the way up to almost 60, 70.
Yeah, can believe that.
And it's still, I don't think it's that bright.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's brighter in Africa.
Come to Africa, let's try it there. And it's yeah, it's if you wanna, you can take a business card, send me the file, I'll be happy to work on it. Let's see what break it down, yeah. Reverse engineer the thing. Okay, Lake Nakuru. The reason I was only going to do Kenya's Masai Mara, but the reason I put this place in is to look at just slow shutter speed stuff. Lake Nakuru National Park is Kenya's smallest national park. It's literally a square like that. It's the only fenced one. They've got fences. And in the middle, there's a big circle lake, the Lake Nakuru. There's fever trees around the side, which to me, if there's nothing else to photograph, makes the most incredible nature kind of art pictures. ICM, intentional camera movement. Anybody know what that is? So if you'll know, because you were at the seminar, yes. So what it is, intentional camera movement is setting a slow shutter speed, 1/20, and literally doing stuff with it. Drawing side to side, zigzag, circles. You never know what you're going to get, but sometimes the results are actually pretty amazing. Where this came from, just out of interest, intentional camera movement is, in Japan, they took these little point and shoot cameras. You can find them here. Set it on manual, 3 seconds, and literally throw it up into the sky. In the middle of Tokyo, catch this thing, and you've got this psychedelic thing happening. ICM, interesting. So we were sitting here, we were waiting for lions to wake up, so they were sleeping below. We started playing around. I quite like that. It's kind of, if wildlife photographers were like impressionist painters, that would come out. But slow shutter speed, just little circles, play around. You shoot 500, you use 2. You only need 2.
Do you ever push or pull your...
Yeah, very, very nice. Push, pull, radial blurs and stuff, phenomenal. Same thing, dead trees on the edge of the lake, same idea. It's just some ideas. People only come back with portraits of animals from their safaris. Don't be that people. Do other stuff, yeah? Same idea here. This is a result of the next image coming up, but this is a male lion running through grass which has very bright sunlight on it. So we were playing with this, and things started happening with the big pride of lions. So I just finished with this lion as he ran, and that came out. Everybody's cup of tea? No. Do I care? No, I like it. That's what your photography should be about, what you like. So to me, this is kind of just a different version. If I shot this as a crisp image, would it have worked? No, because I've chopped them off, there's no eye contact, whatever. But that feels like something else. It just bolts up the portfolio a little bit, makes it sound interesting. The reason he was running was this. This was nasty. As a wildlife photographer, the reason this is in here is if you see a predator on a prey, lion killing a wildebeest, or a leopard killing a baby impala, it's horrible to see, but it makes sense. Deep down, it makes sense because that's nature's way. That's the circle of life. You see lions pummeling another lion, like 12 on 1, it's not fun. So this was logic. I was in the vehicle with 2 people. It was a big cats and tuskers trip, this. You'll see this pride, but I don't think that one's there anymore. We stood watching, and that male was running to come and join in the fray. And every single one of us put our cameras down. You literally, the sound, it was just like you couldn't take a picture. That's tough. Sometimes you see things out there, just doesn't feel right. That didn't feel right. I mean, you can see it from the image. We've got a blog post on that story as well, but nasty. Tough one. Tough one. All right, Masai Mara. Who's been? Phenomenal place. Phenomenal place. Home to the Great Migration, which I'm going to show you a little video of in a second, but just running through some shots of this place. I said to people now last week as well at the Travel and Adventure Show, if you're looking to plan one safari as a bucket list, go, get it done, that's where you're going to go. And specifically during the Great Migration, you're going to see, and a lot of South African clients who go on safari a lot, I say to them, you're going to see more animals on your first drive in the Masai Mara during migration than you've seen in your life. Guaranteed. So just some examples. I'll show you the Great Migration in a sec. But the landscapes in East Africa, the skies are bigger than you can imagine. It is just, they've done something to that place. It is just insane. Iconic Africa. This is on the border of Kenya. The Tanzanian border sits like here. There's nothing there. But it looks like this as far as you can see. Photography-wise, what's the one thing we struggle with as wildlife photographers is the backgrounds. Busy backgrounds, messy backgrounds, branches coming into the frame. Here you don't have it. It's phenomenal. Shots like that. It's iconic. It's easy. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. Settings, 400 ISO, 80, 160, it works. Necking. Yeah? Interesting. Giraffe in these places just look bigger as well because there's nothing else. It's just them. It's phenomenal. The Mara Triangle. We know the Mara Triangle. Anybody ideas? Yeah? So you get the Masai Mara National Reserve, the Mara River, and then the Triangle. It used to be the reserve, but it's kind of changed names. It's got this mountain range, the Olololo Escarpment in the background. What is the most difficult thing to create in an image is depth. Give me the feeling of depth. That mountain in the background works so well for that. Create that depth. Very, very nice shooting. Male lion, back there's a string of wildebeest going in the back. You want to see big cats? We're hoping to see this guy soon. He's in the area, we know this. Scarface is a very, very popular lion. And I think he's got his own Facebook page. He's got like more followers than all of us put together. It's ridiculous. Very, very nice animal to photograph. Lions in the Masai Mara, incredible. Okay, are we getting tired? Here we go. Okay, oops, yeah, happens. But now again, the reason I chose this one in here is look at the angle. So a male lion standing is about that tall, right? We're in a vehicle which is probably my height when I'm sitting inside. So again, we use the lay of the land because there's these undulating hills. Get right down and you get the angle that feels as if you're on his level. She's obviously not very impressed with him, but yeah, it's good fun. Again, animal behavior here becomes interesting because they were towards the end of the mating cycle. When lions start mating, they do it every half an hour for 4 days. Back to back to back, to back and again and again and again. And your shot that you're waiting for is the moment he's finished and he jumps off. the penis is bobbed, so when he pulls out, it hurts her. She lashes out, there's biting and snarling and jumping. That's when you want the image. That's kind of the behavior side of it that comes in as well. Just interesting. Now, this on a big screen, there it looks better. The heat haze here was disgusting. This is the bad heat haze. Like on Lake Ambeli, great, not great. However, I would rather keep that image as far as it was a great action shot than think, oh no, the technical quality is not great. I like it. Nice little jump happening there. Hello? Okay, we're going here. Okay, again, just iconic Masai Mara. Big open plains, cheetah hunting. You want to see cheetah? Masai Mara and Serengeti would be where you go, yeah? Moments like that. Now, how many of you use Instagram or are on Instagram? Great. If you're a photographer, must be on the platform. It is phenomenal. A lot of people and photographers will choose the moment when the cheetah's all full of blood and guts and there's stuff everywhere. I find that the easy way out. As a photographer, I believe we can tell those stories in a more, for lack of a better word, romantic way, where you show, you know what's happened here, or what's going to happen. It's no secret. But there's a romance to it. There's a violent romance, if you will. But that, to me, works. The next shots after that was all blood and guts and inside. It's just, I don't think it's good photography. I think we could be better than that. That's about as far as I would take blood and guts. Yeah? Personally, from a magazine is not going to print an image with a lion and an intestine hanging out. Yeah? Nobody's going to print that and put it on their wall. Okay, just a thought. So, notice, it's quite far off. 800mm lens. I think it was the Canon 5.6. We didn't know the guy was there. This lion started trotting, running. We thought he was going to run into the herd in the background. And this wildebeest must have been injured during a river crossing, and he just jumped him out of nowhere. We didn't. Too late. All right, great migration. It's called the greatest wildlife spectacle on Earth, with a reason. So what I've done, let me just see if this is the next one. How it works, just for you to know what you're going to look at in a second. The Great Migration happens year-round. It's a 850, 900 kilometer. This is Kenya. The Masai Mara, the Triangle, the reserve, and this is the Serengeti. Right, so for 850 kilometers each year, 1.5 million wildebeest do this clockwise circle. During February, March, they're at the bottom. They have babies. There's babies everywhere, and cheetahs want to eat the babies. So that's interesting. Yeah? They keep going, and then what happens at the top here are the river crossings. I'm going to show you a video now we did from last year's season and think photographically through it. The reason it is so intense up here, look at the size, look at the size. Take 200 people, put them on a football field. It's comfortable. Take those same 200, put them on a tennis court. Gets real. It's a bit of tension building up. So down here, when they're babies, it's flat, there's nothing. You're relying on tension to be injected by the predators. Lions, leopards, cheetahs, hunting. That's what you're hoping for. At the top, these things have to cross the river, the Mara River, which runs down there. They don't just cross it once. They've collared a wildebeest, which is just weird to me, but it crossed in one season 7 times, the river, forward, back, forward, back. They're stupid. They're idiots. You'll see now. So, I've got a bunch of images after it, but I want you to just, this video was done on DSLRs, between Marlon, myself, Andrew. We shot this on our DSLRs, and we just stuck it together for the website of last year's season. Think of this as a photographer, right? Think of what you're seeing if you had to do slow shutters and. So this is the Great Migration in 3 minutes, and then we'll look at pictures that came out of it. That's what the landscape looked like pretty much everywhere. Open, flat. That escarpment in the background, beautiful for photography. Looking down into Tanzania. Rain, 1/250th of a shutter speed, blurs it. Up on a termite now, you get lower shots. Black one. When you get black tomorrow. White. See, that's the kind of picture you don't put on your wall. Hunting every single day. Just think about this photographically. Think of the options. Slow shutter, wide, zoom in tight. See, the Mara River does this. Lots of cools, oxbow lakes. $1635, $24.70 from the top down. Works very well. Photographic heaven here. You go in time. The dust. Oh. This happens a lot. Action shots. You put a big lens onto that. Not that. Slow shutter speeds into that. Multiple exposures on camera. Bang on the top of each other. Silhouettes on those ridges, always amazing. So now, as a photographer, there's a lot to this. Okay, there's stages to the migration. They get to the river. They all go down. They wait. Zebras normally go first. So if you want to get that jump, wait for the zebras because they start the process. Dust like this from August onwards, just incredible. So a couple of shots here. So you've seen what it's about. Kind of that's a blink. But let's look at some of the images from here. 2,500 Y. Here I wanted to freeze everything. It is chaotic. There is stuff moving everywhere. I would rather overcompensate and make sure I nail it than to have, if these guys were softened out of focus, it might look like a mistake unless I go intentional. Yeah? The scale is incredible. So this is with the 200 mil there, 7200. You should be going, and one of the best, no, not best, a nice lens to have for this, 100, 400 or 8400. Why? People don't know where to start. It is so overwhelming. What do I do? People think there's so many, it should be easy to photograph. The more there are, the more difficult it becomes. So you break it down to formula. Shoot a shot at 100, 200, 300, 400, pull back. Go portrait, go 100, 200, 300, 400, and you keep on repeating that because eventually you're going to find out where your eye likes the images the most. And then you execute against that. Yes?
One thing that I think is important to mention, especially if people haven't shot with a long lens,
Yeah.
is it's a hell of a lot harder.
Yeah. You shoot, like you say now, lenses outside of 300. Smallest bit of movement, you get movement. That's why I keep that shutter speed up. That's why I'm going for 1,000, 2,000, even if it's pretty static subjects. Good call. So here, 1/8 of a second, I wanted to try and capture that energy because these things, some are going in, some are going out, some don't want to go. The ones that were standing still, obviously, are rendered perfectly sharp, but then where the chaos is, I've got movement. I choose to stay in aperture mode, and I will scroll from f5.6, f6.3, go to 22, aperture goes up, shutter speed comes down, yeah? There's your relationship. If I wanted to then bang it out, I will just close my aperture, come back to 2.8, shutter speed goes up again. So if you understand the relationship, you can go from moving shots to stationary. Those kind of things, dime a dozen. Big lens, bang it in there, phenomenal. Obviously, you need to bring it out a bit with processing because it's quite dull and dusty. What's it called? Dehaze in Lightroom. Oh, yeah. Down at the bottom, I think it's under effects. Dehaze slider. Oh, golden for dust. It's amazing. Same kind of thing here. Bright sunlight, midday. So we don't shoot midday, do we? We never photograph when the sun's at the top, do we? Of course you do. The angle of the river does this. So these things are running down. So in theory, the light is, if we flatten it out, coming in diagonal at the subject. Make sense? Punches the sky. Well, the dust in this case. Multiple exposure in camera. So these zebras are edgy on the side. They've got this nervous tension. How do you capture that? You take one picture, it's going to look like they're frozen. It's 2 or 3 multiple exposures on a beanbag and just go click, click, click. Allow them to create the energy in the frame. Very slow. 0.4 of these things thundering down the river. If you've done a crossing, a migration safari, by day 3, you're going to have, I kid you not, 3,500 images, easy. Easy. I had a guy once, we did a 10-day safari in the migration. He shot 45,000 frames in those 10 days. I've never seen him since. He's still processing. It's weird. So once you've banked your shot, start playing around. Slow it down, follow it through. You might miss 50, but you might get 1. And it's that 1 that counts. Playing around. Same thing. There's some cliffs and stuff where they've kind of got to jump down. Instead, people think you can only pan this way. Why not pan down? Follow them down. It creates a very tough... You can see what this is. There's a wildebeest. There's a dust spot as well. That's bad. And there. But you can see what it is. It's just a different type of image. Slow shutter. Follow them down. Bang it in. That's iconic migration crossing. It's dusty. It's gritty. Messy. Love it. That's wildlife photography right there. That's what it is. This happens a lot, especially if you go early August. Things are hungry. This guy got away, though. The zebra actually made it. But here, ISO 800, 1,600 shutter speed. Why? It happens so quick. You can see the croc drifting in, but it happens very quick. Keep that shutter speed up. This guy also made it. The crocs are actually very bad at hunting. They think they're great, but not that great. So again, I made sure here you're shooting into white, so there's a lot of reflective light coming from the scene, so you will have a fast shutter speed. I was quite far off here. The distance was quite far, so I'm happy for 5.6. So sightings like that. Shutter speed has to stay up. Also made it. So there's just.
How do you manage or measure out your white balance and keep the colors consistent as the light changes around it?
Yeah. How do you keep your white balance kind of stable? I shoot auto 99% of the time. I find that the cameras I work with, I shoot Nikon and Canon, but I go more on feel. So I'll shoot the auto white balance, and when I start processing, if I feel there's a color cast, then I'll adjust. But this was as is. That was straight up. I try not to processing, excuse the French, but a lot of people take a rubbish image, they put it into Lightroom and they think they can fix it. To me, Lightroom isn't about fixing. It's about lifting up and showing. Excuse the French, you can't polish a turd. You put a rubbish image into Lightroom, it's going to stay rubbish. Yeah? So most of the time I'll shoot auto and just tweak if necessary. The biggest white balance issues is for me for stars, Milky Way. That just bombs it off the charts. But everything you've seen so far would be auto.
It's sun in, sun out.
Yeah, yeah. When you shoot Svalbard, it becomes interesting.
Yeah, do you use any type of filtration?
No, straight up. Yeah. Just trying to create a bit of depth in the images. As these things come up the hill, focus on them. You've got the other ones coming through the back. I would have liked to have shot that at about an 11. See why? The back is just too soft and out of focus. I would have liked to get that little bit more in there. Hey, I'll try again this year. As these things come out, things happen. So this poor wildebeest was the last one to come through. Everybody's like, yeah, they've made it. Lioness, literally, we've been sitting there for 3 hours. Didn't know she's there, bang. So that means know your camera. Things happen so quick. If you don't know where to change ISO and shutter speed on the fly, you're going to miss shots. African wildlife happens very quickly. Same with this one here. We didn't know the leopard was here. It was like underneath the bank where we were sitting. We think one of the wildebeest fell. It literally caught it and pulled it back out the river. Happens so quick. Don't know your camera, you're not going to get those shots. I do this on a digital photography course. When you get home, try this. Hold your camera, close your eyes and try and turn it on and off. People don't know where to turn the camera on and off. It's their own camera. Right, touch the playback button. Don't know where it is. Where do you change your ISO? Those things are important. Important. See, there's things happening there. And just the end of the day, we'll wrap up kind of there. These kind of scenes at the end of each day during migration is a dime a dozen. It's there all the time. Every single day. So the biggest thing is, if you go home from a safari, you need to be able to show people not only what you saw, but what you felt. Moments like this, there's this excitement, there's lions killing stuff, and there's migrations and crocodiles doing backflips and whatever. At the end of the day, you're driving back to camp, and it's these moments where you kind of just stop and think, yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's not only the hero shots. You're not only going to take the hero shots and the winning images. You look on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, the pictures people post, normally they think are only hero shots. 90% of what you take is not hero shots. It's just the good, solid stuff that's there. Take the portrait, take the animal. It's all there all the time. So, we'll just leave that with you. I quite like that. It's pretty cool. Pretty decent. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. If any of you would like a copy of the presentation or get in touch with regards to anything, I've got a couple of business cards here. I don't know, take a picture. The top website is my portfolio. So there is every single trip I've done for the last 6 years per trip. Mara, January, Ambeli, January, and so on and so forth. Wild Eyes, the company, obviously safaris and details there. Email, and then all of the social platforms are just amazing. Any questions? Yes. That's a very good question. The camp that we put up our own camp in the Mara Triangle. So on the triangle side, our camp's on the river. So if I'm driving back to camp from one of the crossing points, it could be 10 minutes or 5, just depending. If you stay on the Masai Mara side, not all of them, but a lot of them are quite far out. So it's a 2-hour drive back to camp. Most of the time for me, driving back to camp in the Mara is no more than 20 minutes. You're right. I mean, it's right there. And at camp, you've got the hippos shouting just from there. Yeah. More questions? Yeah.
You talked about the dust a whole bunch, which is really cool to see. How do you protect your gear?
Oh, yeah. Very good question. How do you protect your gear from dust? So the easiest way is 2 things. The vehicles we use most of the time has space for, so you can take your camera bag, flip it open and down. Do not change lenses in the field, if you can help it, right? Shower caps, most of the people steal it from the lodges anyway. Take a shower cap, stick it on front. You can buy them, those neoprene cover things that you can put on. Shower cap works golden, and that's about it. See, I must be honest, I think a lot of people are too stressed about it. For me, a camera is a tool. It's the same as a hammer. I'm going to use the hammer to do what it does. I'm going to use my camera to do what it does. I clean them after every single trip, and common sense, eh? I mean, Ambeli is the worst. You'll see in a couple of weeks. Ambeli with that dust is ridiculous. Like, even if you don't change lenses, you get dust inside. So I always have blowers and stuff where I can help people clean it up. I've had people clean sensors on the trip, but just common sense really, hey? But the shower cap works nicely. I had a big guy, he was huge. He had this nice pink one, it was great. Yes?
So when is the best time to actually see the migration, and if you were going to be either on the Kenya side or on the Tanzania side, I mean, does it make that much of a difference if you were going to pick one of those sides?
Good question. So the migration runs, if you look at where to look at it or see it, if you're looking at the Tanzanian, I'm talking the bottom of the southern Serengeti. That's February, March. Feb, March, maybe beginning April. That's when they give birth, the calving season at the bottom. So very open areas. If you're looking at the river crossings we saw now, it peaks in Kenya between, we run our trips from end of July through beginning October. Now for the last 25 years, including last year, the peak of the migration is second half August, beginning 2 weeks of September. That is historically the peak. If you want to see the migration, the crossings in Tanzania of that same time, you have to be a little bit earlier as they're coming around up towards Kenya. I did a blog, that map I have in here, and if you want to email me and ask, I did a blog comparing the two sides, kind of when it is, where it is, what you can expect top and bottom and so on and so forth. But July to October at the top, February to April at the bottom. Yeah? Yes. Ooh, sorry, go again. Ooh. Ooh, very good question. Any photographers that have influenced my style? Wow, good question. I've always said, I've said that I don't like to peg myself as having a style, because to me that's retrospective. And I've had people, I can think of one client specifically, she likes to shoot these very overexposed high key stuff all the time. So I said to her, you must be careful that your style does not become a rut. Then you got a problem. So, people who I enjoy, there's a Norwegian photographer called Ole Jørgen Lioden. I don't know if you know him from Svalbard. Phenomenal, just great, solid wildlife. There's a South African photographer called Hannes Lochner. He does, he specializes in doing just coffee table books. That's all he does. Great books, by the way. So, and then people like, I used the quote earlier on, David Shemin. I love his take on, and more his writing about photography and trying to apply that. But I think it's a big mix, hey? Big mix. Very good question. Very good question. I'm going to have to explore that a bit. Yes? You want to answer? My wife can answer that for you. She'll say, too many. Yeah. So last year I was in the field for about 210 days of the year. The company now, so we're running, I think, I had this printed out, I had that printed out last week. I think we've got about 50 or 60 safaris scheduled departures. So Madikwa, for 17 and maybe the same in 2018. But I've got a whole bunch of new guides who are taking the smaller trips. So like next year I'm going to start doing more of Borneo, Pantanal, doing Canada later in this year up north. So yeah, between this year I'm hoping to do a bit less, just from building the business point of view. But yeah, there's a lot of trips. For those of you that are keen, I've got this from the Chicago show. This thing is fighting with me. Is a list of all the set departures for 2017 and 2018. Okay, and there's a show special that we ran for that. I'm happy to send that to you guys. Just drop me a mail or grab a business card or whatever. But how many do I go on? Yeah, a lot. It's fun. Yes? How many do we see? Kenya is a very diverse. You're looking at about, I think they've got 49 different tribes in there. And the Masai, who you saw now with the red stuff, they're the smallest. The Masai make about 1% of the Kenyan and Tanzanian populations. Yeah. Not as many, unfortunately. It's becoming westernized. If you're going north into Kenya, Lake Turkana and that, there's still a lot of tribes living, kind of the Samburu up there, the Kikuyu, some of them, and then the Masai way up north, but not too many. It's kind of. My world was crushed when I got to Kenya for the first time. We get there and we land in the plane, and this Masai guide fetches us. Pakwao was his name, Manny Pakwao. Anyway, so we stop on drinks on the way to the camp, and it wasn't our camp at the time. It was just some camp we used. So we stopped for drinks under this tree, and I'm thinking, holy hell, this is amazing. It's Kenya. And this guy's walking off with his purple Masai gear, and I'm thinking, this is amazing. I'm going to take a picture. His phone rings off on his phone. So it kind of crushed me a bit. But yeah, the Western world is encroaching very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Bob, you had a...
Yeah, what is the range of daylight hours in Tanzania and Kenya?
So sun comes up at about 6:30, 6:45, and drops. You're looking at about 12 hours of good light. Yeah. Pretty much year-round. They're so close to the equator that it's good all year round. Like, I'm of the opinion that there's no such thing as bad light. It's just what you do with it. So in our migration trip specifically, and even in big catch, we might go out the entire day. We leave at 6:30, we come back at 7, and you're just shooting all the time. Yeah.
Going back to the Masai, any advice? Like, are they comfortable with being photographed? Like, any cultural, like any
Good question.
interacting or
Are they
anything?
are the Masai comfortable being photographed? If you look at it about 7 years ago, 10 years ago, yes. Now, in some areas, like we drove from the Ngorongoro crater back to where our camp was, and one of the girls was hanging out taking pictures. They ran after the car with sticks and stuff because they want money for it now. There's this dollar thing to it. A lot of the lodges and camps, what they're doing is they've got the Masai guys around camp, and you can then go and pay them $5 and you take a picture. They're not real Masai guys. It's a tough one. Some areas, I mean, one of my clients, we went into the staff that run our camp, they're pure Masai. They're not lodge-based. If they're not managing our camp and running the camp, they're tending cattle. And we went to stay with them for 3 or 4 nights. That's hairy Africa. I mean, that's dark Africa. And there they're fine. They don't have interaction with us Westerners wanting to take pictures. The closer you are to the main centers, it's tough. Ask your local guide at the time. Yeah. Coming now.
When you're looking into trying to book a trip and so forth, other than the ones you work,
Sure.
what are some clues, or how do you tell whether, a safari company is, safe, is trustworthy? Like, how do you judge them? Are there any clues? What do you look for?
It's a very good question. If you're booking a safari, how do you know they're good and what do you look for? I would find out, whoever you're dealing with, try and get to the guide. How long have they been in the guiding industry? How long have they been with the company? What is their qualifications and what is their experience? Because those are the people on the ground who you're going to be working with. The people in the office promise you everything. They say, yeah. Marketing can build it up and operations has to fix it up. So I would try and get and speak to the guide. If you can get to the guide who's going to be with you in that vehicle for 2 days, 10 weeks, then you start becoming interesting. Social media as well for me is, we're big on social. I mean, these platforms for us is huge. And I think a lot of people and companies who, if you just scratch around a bit, go and look at the comments on their feed, see what they're doing. I mean, are they adding value in a bigger picture or are they just trying to sell you something? It's a tough one. But I would try and get to the guide as soon as possible. Speak to them. Yes?
Were there restrictions flying drones in those national parks or safari parks?
Drones, negative. So what's happened is I had a crossing building up 4 or 5 years ago. We're on this side. There was big, like 10 cars on that side. An Italian film crew, can't remember the name of the company, put a drone up. The wildebeest were crossing. They flew it around and on top, and it chased the whole bunch off. So literally, it chased 5,000 wildebeest away. Drones are in southern Africa, they're illegal, not necessarily from an animal point of view because of poaching. So I think it's a 500 meter or something no-fly zone. I know it's happening in private reserves, but for all intents and purposes, no, not allowed. Wild dogs. Ha, yes, wild dogs. Madikwe in South Africa is known for it. They had a rabies outbreak last year, though, so they take a bit of a whack. Mana pools during August, September, October. There's 2-3 packs that are very, very active that time of year. Venetia is a small reserve just north of South Africa on the Botswana border. And then places like Savuti. But if you're going to go if you want to see just wild dogs, I would double down and do a trip to Madikwe for a couple of days and Mana pools during the September-October period. Yeah, phenomenal animal. Phenomenal animal. Yes, sir.
What is the coldest time of the year in Africa? I'm not talking just in one spot, I'm talking about from southern Africa all the way up to
Coldest time. So winter for us, from about April it starts cooling down. Then May, June, July, I would say May, June, July would be your coldest overall. Kind of stays cool until September and then it just skyrockets again. Not this. This is bloody freezing. I mean, we left Africa on 25 degrees Celsius, and that was average. So cold for us in the bush, okay, it's different. Johannesburg's cold is about a 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. In the bush, you get the same thing, but because you're in an open vehicle, there's something called the Beaufort wind scale. For every 7 kilometers per hour that you drive, the real field temperature drops by 1 degree. So May, June, July, you need to wrap up on safari. It's very cold. Yeah, real feel. But yeah, July is probably the coldest. But look, I've been in the Mara end of October, which is theoretically the hottest time, and I've had beanies and stuff on for morning game drive. So my camera bag's always got gloves without fingers and beanie, always. Gotta have it. Anybody else? Yes?
Are there any particular programs in particular that help, like ecotourism and so forth, where some of the money goes into, maintaining
Conservation and that.
Exactly.
Programs that kind of maintain conservation. It's a discussion I had with someone this morning as well. She wanted to start working in Africa and save the rhino and everything. So the big problem, I think, in a bigger scale, of why we're not winning with rhino poaching is there's 250 organizations all pulling in their own direction. There's no one big poster child or poster company that says, let's all pool this and that's where we're going. So if you look around, there's a lot of safari companies saying, come with us and you'll benefit conservation, this, that. Yes, the park fees all go to the right place. But as an umbrella, I think it's all over the place, unfortunately. Everybody's got good intention, they're doing good work, but it's like that. It's a tough one. There's, like, for example, let's say you say to me you want to go to Mana Pools, then we get in touch with the ecologist there, and they do very good wild dog work for their population. What they're doing there will not work in Madikwe or up in Botswana. So depending on where you're going, and if you want to make a difference, then there are ways that you can kind of reconcile those. It's a tough one. Yeah, you get the guys outside the shopping centers gathering money with their safari clothing and stuff, and then inside there's another. It's all over the place. It's a problem. They've created a company now, or a holding body in South Africa called Rage, something environment, and they're trying to do this, is to pull all of these pieces together and to have them focus in one direction. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I haven't been to Africa. I have been to India twice.
Yes.
And, when you're prepping, you have to take into consideration some of the parasites, some of the, what are some of the things you really have to worry about out there as far as, hygiene and,
Sure.
sure it doesn't eat you.
Yeah. Yeah. So the safety issues, the concerns we have, and this is a presentation I did last week, is the myths and misconceptions of travel in Africa, is safety. You think you're going to die when you get off the plane because there's rampaging hordes of maniacs running around, or animals kill you when you get off the plane. Food, people worry about food. People worry about accommodation. And then safety on game drive. We've had people phoning saying they want to take a lady, actually, I think she was from here, New York somewhere, phoning saying that how is she going to bring her 25 liters of drinking water on the plane? Okay. We were speaking, Dennis and them, I think someone said fruit peelers. You've got to bring fruit peelers because all of that is complete rubbish. Some of the lodges you'll be staying at, even my camp, which is it's a tented camp, it is some restaurants here can learn a thing or two from these places. I mean that in a good way, though. From a medicinal point of view, yellow fever in some countries is a must. You have to have yellow fever for certain countries. And then there's the malaria question. Again, I think in all the meetings I've had today, malaria comes up. I don't take malaria tablets at all. Never do, probably never will, because I don't like the way Malarone messes with your head. It's very vivid. But if your doctor says you need to take it, absolutely take it. But again, it's not necessary. Some areas, like Madikwe, has no malaria. Yet they come to Madikwe and people have tablets like this. So it's very specific. What we have from an info sheet point of view we're building now is we'll send you going to Madikwe, this is the requirements, and then you can chat to your doctor on this side and see where, what, and how. But it's not as bad. Yeah. It's not as bad. Yes? Bush meat.
So you don't want
To eat. Venison. Yeah? A lot of lodges do it. So, for example, some of the best venison you'll ever have, kudu, eland, and impala. Brilliant. They don't put it on the menus normally, but often they have it as a choice. It doesn't come from the areas where you're not going to photograph the kudu that morning and then it's on your plate that evening, because that's wrong. Okay, so that would be. I had it in Svalbard, funny enough, that this one lady was very upset. the one afternoon we're walking, we're photographing reindeer. I mean, this close to this reindeer, wide angle. And we're like still joking and said, yeah, haha, some people eat this. That night, they serve us reindeer. It was bad. It was bad. But no, it doesn't come from the place. It comes from farms, and it's all controlled. It's the same as getting beef from a butcher. Or it comes from...
Bush meat that the people kill, the hunting.
Mm,
How safe is that?
to eat.
Yes.
Um,
And I've seen recently I saw a program on bush meat where the hunters take it to a market for consumption by people.
yeah,
And I was just wondering how safe that is, seeing as
yeah.
stories where bush meat is carrying certain diseases.
I wouldn't. I mean, I've been to Masai markets with my staff and stuff, and they would have shot like a Gerry or an impala or something, and it comes there. Personally, wouldn't. I mean, I'm used to some of those stuff, but I wouldn't go there. For the locals, they used to that kind of process and stuff. If you and I go there, I would say no. Rather not. Okay, yes. Yeah. Anybody else? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you make good pictures without a watch that large?
No. You need a big watch like this, otherwise all rubbish. It's heavy. It's like a balancing system, you see. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
The one thing I found interesting is obviously the first thing you're gonna be drawn to are the bigger animals and so forth. But why don't you see more pictures, just generally speaking, of some of the less famous animals like the snakes and
Sure.
the bugs and the monkeys and so forth?
A couple of years ago, why did you see more images of the other things, apart from like the big stuff I've shown you here? A couple of years ago, the answer would probably have been different right now because it doesn't get as many likes on Instagram. It really, I mean, we've got people on safari and they've got this incredible picture of a guinea fowl. It's like a grouse thing, yeah? And they don't post it because nobody's going to like it. They'll rather post a half shitty image of a leopard because that'll get some likes. That's it. It really is.
You see all that stuff all over.
Yep. Yeah. You'll see, I mean, the big five, the stuff I show you now, you're not going to see all of that in one safari. If I could show you all of that in one safari, I'd make a lot of money. But those kind of things is for purposes of here to show you what's possible. I mean, on my Lightroom catalog, probably about there's 90,000 images. And of that, I would say about 80,000 is non-big five, other stuff. Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, unfortunately today, people decide what a good image is based on how many likes it gets. But that's going to go me going on a tangent. I don't want to go there. Strong feelings about that. Okay, let's do two more. Yep.
How long have you been doing the safari photography?
So, photography for me started in about 97, 98 somewhere. More travel. I worked on the Queen Mary 2 for a long time. She came here for once or twice. And it started as travel photography. Did a couple of courses here and there. And then when I went back to Africa to manage lodges, it just kind of exploded. So, probably going about 15 years now or something. Somewhere there. In the guiding industry as well, pushing about 12 with Wild Eye, and then I used to manage game lodges and guided lodges and stuff. Probably about, 13, 14 years now.
The 90,000 images that you have,
Yeah.
those from 20 years ago.
The 90,000 for me is from 2012. So basically when I started going into Wild Eye and kind of Photo Africa, my previous company, all the other stuff, I've got a whole bunch of CDs and DVDs packed away and saved up, not even including those. I need to go and look at them again because the dehaze slider does amazing things. Yeah, one more. I think it was over here.
Yeah, I kind of hate to go back to it, but asking
Yep.
the lens question because I do need to get another lens
'Kay.
before I go.
What do you have?
I have a 50mm 1.4, and then I have I think it's a 70 to 200.
Mhm.
Just the kind of stock one, like not very expensive.
And you shoot Canon.
Yes.
So
I'm just
depending
about
on,
make sure I'm not missing some of the
yeah,
shots.
wherever I go, whether I'm going to shoot grizzlies, jungles, Svalbard, the first lens for me is always a 70-200, every single time. Because in Kenya, you can use it for wide landscape type shots, and in Southern Africa, you can get very close up. On something like yours, depending on the type of images you want to shoot, I would say take a 300 2.8 with converters.
Say that again?
A 300 2.8 with converters for me is golden. It is absolutely amazing. However, know that it's limiting. like with the elephant fighting. You're going to get stuck on that, and you're going to think, why did Gerry say that? But from a quality point of view, a 300 2.8 is very general all the way around. And with a 1.4 and a 2 times, the quality coming out of it is great. If not that, I would look at probably the 100 400, the new one. It's the quality coming out of it's great. And versatility there for me wins. So, I mean, if you want to drop me a mail and say, these are the images I've taken, this is what I want to take, and then we can reconcile those and say which lens works for what you want to create. Yeah. But I would take a 300 2.8. I've been shooting a 400 2.8 the last while as well, and it's not bad, eh? Very nice. Yeah. Right. Okay. Guys, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. If you have any questions, I have got some business cards. Take a picture. If you want the presentation, I can send that off to you. Go and check out the blog, Instagram, everything. And yeah, good luck with your photography. Thank you.